The following program on PBS 39 is made possible in part by
Excellence lives here in northeastern Indiana. It's reflected in more than 200 nationally recognized degrees. It drives our Division I sports. It's alive in our campus life. Excellence has a name, IPFW. Around our campus, around the country, around the world. Excellence lives here. Indiana University, Purdue University, Fort Wayne. One university, two great names.
For nearly 60 years, Arts United has worked to bring the rich, diverse talents of our region together through support of the arts, socially, culturally, and economically. Arts United, providing a home for the arts in Northeast Indiana.
This is Arts Weekly. Arts Weekly is produced in cooperation with the College of Visual and Performing Arts at IPFW, offering degrees in fine arts, music, theater, and visual communication and design.
Welcome to Arts Weekly. I'm John O'Connell, Dean of the IPFW College of Visual and Performing Arts. On today's show, we'll talk with some of the people behind two of Fort Wayne's longest-standing musical groups, the Fort Wayne Philharmonic Chorus and the Fort Wayne Area Community Band. In the second half of the show, I'll be joined by Benjamin Rivera, director of the Fort Wayne Philharmonic Chorus. But first, I'm joined by Rod King, who will share some background about the Fort Wayne Area Community Band's upcoming May 6th concert. Rod, welcome to Arts Weekly, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. It's always a great opportunity and a fun time to be able to tell people about what we call probably the least known entertainment value in town.
Right.
So.
It's a great value and the least known. It's been around quite some time, hasn't it?
35 years in all, and it started when Dr. Bill Schlacks, who was the director of instrumental music at IPFW, put a little notice in the Fort Wayne newspapers for anybody who wanted to come out and join a community band.
I would imagine that was during a time when IPFW didn't have the kind of music department it has now, so it wanted to be engaged in the community and have community volunteers.
That's correct. That's correct.
Well, how did your love of music start, Rod?
Well, my mother made me take the clarinet, and when I got in high school, I wanted an instrument that made more noise, so I turned to the tenor saxophone, which I still play.
Yeah, and the saxophone, you know, it's a little more sexy than the clarinet,
That's
you
right.
have to admit.
True.
Yeah.
I do that.
Yeah. And did you play saxophone for a long time, and then?
I started playing it in high school in the band, and then after high school, I just put the whole thing under the bed.
Right.
And 18 years later, this notice came in the paper, and I got it out along with a couple friends where I worked, and we went out and we're charter members of the new Fort Wayne Area Community Band.
So you're a founding charter member.
Yes.
Of this 30. That's fantastic. I really appreciate you coming out to talk about it. But I have to note that you're wearing a Purdue pin?
Yes, my wife is a Purdue graduate.
Ah, good.
So we get down there often. She's a member of the advisory board for the Purdue Music Organization. So we love music.
Well, I love Purdue.
Great.
I work for it, so. Well, so 35 years ago you came. How many people showed up for that audition?
Just 35, and now we have 80. So it's a big organization, and you don't have to try out to become a member of Fort Wayne Area Community Band. Just come out to a rehearsal on Tuesday nights, 7:30 at the John and Ruth Reinhardt Music Center.
On the campus of IPFW.
And we'll find a seat for you.
80 members, that's quite a band.
Yeah.
That's quite some sound you create, I'll bet.
We fill up the music room out there, and at times it even gets a little tight because our first concert out at Fullinger Theater for the summer, we invite high school students from around the area, and so they come the week before the concert to rehearse with us, and there are between 20 and 30 to 40 of them, and packed in there is really
it's tight. Yeah. Is it an open invitation? You just send it out to area band leaders,
yes.
and you ask them to encourage their students, and
yep.
whoever shows, and
right.
if you got 20 saxophone players and 2 clarinets, well, that's what you're going to have, huh?
Something like that. They usually respond and say, so-and-so is coming, plays the flute or clarinet, whatever. Right.
That's a nice recruiting tool for people who don't plan to make a history or a career in music, to keep in mind that they'll have some sort of hobby interest, if you will.
Right, and you can keep playing your instrument forever.
Right. What kind of challenges have you had in the last 35 years to keep the organization going? Because I would imagine in a volunteer organization you've had some challenges.
Well, there have been a couple of times, we're changing conductors. The university provided us a conductor, the head of the instrumental music department, up until 6 years ago, and they started a second wind ensemble or band, and the man who conducted us didn't have time anymore, so we hired a conductor from the outside. He's a professor at Manchester University, Scott Humphreys, and so he drives over here once a week to rehearse, and then
does he do all your concerts then, since you brought him on board?
He shares each concert half and half with one of our assistant conductors. And then in the summer, he isn't involved. The assistant conductors take the leadership on all the concerts.
You make it sound like you have a lot of summer activity. Do you do a lot of outside concerts, or do you travel or something during the summer?
We don't travel.
You don't go to Roanoke, or you don't kind of...
We used to.
Because it's, I note that it's called the Fort Wayne Area Community Band, and that you're kind of specific about that, because you want to include...
We have people from Decatur and Antwerp, Ohio, and up at Auburn coming down to play. But we don't travel. We used to go to some festivals. We're invited, and we haven't for a couple of years. But that's not something that we would not accept if we were offered. So,
are there a fair amount of members who've been in the band for 35 years, or
just
20?
Eight of us left.
8 of you left.
Yeah, they've moved on to different jobs in different communities, or I don't know, giving up music or whatever, but there are only 8 now. So.
And you say that you are out at IPFW. What does that mean when you have a relationship with IPFW?
Yeah, well, they've been our sponsor all these 35 years since we started, and we're now listed as an ensemble in residence under your College of Fine and Performing,
Visual and Performing Arts.
Visual and Performing Arts, yes.
Right. That was an edict, if you will, of the Reinhardts when they donated money for that facility. They said that it would be very important to them that IPFW house some community organizations in that building. Okay. So that's how the company in residence was started. Okay. Fame was there for a while. The children's choir is still there. You're there. The community orchestra is there. Sure. So that's that was an edict by. IPFW certainly loves to be involved with the community, but really the impetus behind it was the donation money from the Reinhardts for the actual facility, which you've got to say is a pretty state-of-the-art, incredible facility.
It's a great place to play.
Yeah,
We played in the Embassy and the Scottish Rite and the Performing Arts Center, and we started out at Neff Hall, and we played in the parks and all those places, but this is the best.
I tell you, a lot of people started in that Neff Hall. I've only been here 7 years, but I've heard some stories about that Neff Hall. It's in the basement that you perform, isn't it? Or
no, not
isn't
actually.
The stage split the ground and floor level? Or?
No, it's actually an amphitheater stage, but it's very small, and that's where we performed for 5 or 6 years until we got too big. And our first concert there was only a few months after we formed, and the audience was made up of spouses and children of the performers.
Well, I hear tales of Larry Life did productions in Neff Hall as well.
Oh, I'm sure.
And the music department was there for a long time before Reinhardt. That was their main home, and their offices were all over campus. But it has quite a reputation, Neff Hall. How many concerts does the area community band do in a year?
We put on 4 at the Reinhardt Center. First one is in usually late October or early November, then a holiday show one in mid-February, and then our May concert, which is next Tuesday. And then we go out to Fullinger Theater and we put on 3 concerts there, one in June, July, and August.
Are those all 3 different concerts in the summertime?
Yes.
They are.
Oh, yeah.
So you're kind of summer heavy, it sounds like. You've got to be in rehearsal between those 2 concerts. If those 3 concerts, it's a constant thing.
Yeah, we rehearse every Tuesday except when the university is closed.
Right. Well, I would just think that those summer concerts with volunteers, you know, summertime people are away. Is it hard to corral everybody for those 3 concerts in the summer? Or?
Well, if it's Tuesday night, that's community band night.
Right.
And all of our concerts at Fullinger Theater are on a Tuesday night. We work that out with them. And our concerts out here at IPFW are on Tuesday nights.
So the community knows if you want to hear the community band, it's on a Tuesday
night.
Well, that's interesting because I think the community orchestra has the same sort of relationship. They go on Monday nights, I think, when they play as well. So what kind of variety do you seek in your concerts?
It's a wide variety. Summer is lighter, more marches, more show tunes, fun stuff with vocalists and things like that. The winter concert is a little more heavy. We wear tuxedos, oh yeah. And it's a little heavier music, some challenging stuff that's perhaps, wouldn't say modern, but more
unfamiliar,
some classics. And this particular concert has several Latin pieces.
Let's talk about this particular concert.
Okay.
May 6th.
May 6th.
Tuesday evening.
7:30 in the Auer Auditorium in the Reinhardt Music Center. The doors open at 7. All ticket sales is done at the box office.
Oh, there's no advance. You just come to the window and take care of it.
Come on in.
What's the ticket cost for the area community band?
It's $7 for adults, $6 for seniors, $2 for kids under 12. IPFW students are free with their ID.
Great. And on the program for Tuesday night, what are we going to hear?
We have the Billboard March. I've got to check this one out.
Yeah, I got to look at that one.
Yeah. Variations on America. Don't go away.
Stay tuned.
That's right. Emperata Overture by Claude T. Smith. Fandango by Frank Parkins. Twentiana, which is arranged by Holly Aids, is a montage of songs from the 1920s. Then I mentioned Variations on America by Charles Ive, a Wagner piece by the Ride of the Valkyries. And then from the Latin side, we've got Fantasia Brillante by Francois Born, Danza Cubana by Robert Sheldon, and then the Fandango.
All right.
So,
well, it's an eclectic evening, and I look forward to it Tuesday, May 6th.
It is.
Rod, thank you for being on Arts Weekly. I appreciate it very
Thank you.
much. Take this minute to view our performance calendar of what's coming up in our area, and I'll be right back with Benjamin Rivera of the Fort Wayne Philharmonic Chorus to talk about their upcoming concert. We'll be right back. On Saturday, May 10th, the Fort Wayne Philharmonic Chorus will join the orchestra for a performance of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony at the Embassy Theater. Joining me to talk about this classic work is Benjamin Rivera, the director of the Fort Wayne Philharmonic Chorus. Benjamin, welcome to Arts Weekly, and thank you for joining me.
Thanks very much.
I think this is our first opportunity to meet. You've been in Fort Wayne just for a year now, is that correct?
Right.
As the chorus director.
Correct.
Tell me a little bit about your background in music. What brought you to Fort Wayne and as a choral director?
Well, it's a long story, as it usually is.
Yeah.
I have played instruments all of my life, and I've sung, but it wasn't until my freshman, sophomore year in college, I was a math major. I was going to be teaching math, at least that's what I thought. And
they need a lot of math teachers, I got to tell you, Benjamin.
It's true, I might be making more money, or at least have more job security. But in any case, I won a singing competition. And with that was a cash award and a scholarship. And I thought to myself, you know, nobody really ever offered me any cash to do math. So maybe I should go into music. Maybe
right.
I have a
There's
future
a sign,
here.
yeah, absolutely.
So I changed my major, and you know, the rest is sort of history, at least as far as my academic pursuits are
Where did you
concerned.
study music?
At the time I was at University of Illinois, Chicago. I transferred several times because of moving and various things. And I ended up getting a bachelor's degree from North Park University in Chicago, a master's from Roosevelt University, and I'm almost done with my doctorate from Northwestern University.
Oh, nice place to get a doctorate from. Northwestern
I think so.
has some. Northwestern has some pretty strong arts programs. They're listed at the top of the theater graduate programs. So terrific! Congratulations. Are you from Chicago originally?
Basically, I was born in Michigan. My father was in the service, and met my mother through, I believe, her brother, who was also in the service with him. Not exactly sure. I don't remember. It's been a long time.
Right.
But so I was born in Michigan. They got married in Michigan and while he was stationed there, and then he moved back with the family to Chicago, which is where he was from.
Well, you've been in Fort Wayne for, well, you're not in Fort Wayne. Let's talk to our viewers a little bit about your complicated life, because you have a little bit of a complicated professional life. How did you get the job as the chorus director for the Philharmonic?
Well, I saw a posting for the position, and the position was basically that of chorus director for an orchestra, which is a very specific kind of job. It's not just conductor of a chorus, it's not conductor of a specific type of chorus, but conductor of a chorus for an orchestra. And so I knew what the repertoire was going to be.
Classical?
Classical, but choral orchestral specifically. Things that are generally large-scale works performed by chorus and orchestra. And I said, you know, I have a lot of experience in that. I like it, so I decided to put my hat in there. And I got a phone call, and they asked me for a phone interview of sorts, did that, and then there was an audition process by which several people came to prepare a concert last season.
Right.
So I prepared the concert that happened at the beginning of March of 2013, which was quite the adventure, because the particular piece we were performing was, I mean, it was insane, really. And I had done it before more than once, and so I knew what I was getting myself into.
You knew the difficulty of it.
But still. So
you thought, these people are really putting me through the ringer.
I couldn't believe, honestly, I couldn't believe that a city of 250,000 was going to try to put on a piece like this. And I was immediately drawn to that, because that's the kind of person I am. So I did that concert in March, and I was offered the position at the end of the season, July, August, after the process was over.
Yeah, we had Andrew Constantine on our program a few weeks ago, and I don't think our viewers understand the rigor that goes into auditioning for a job in the music industry like that. You know, his interview was a 2-year process by which he came in and conducted for the orchestra and did a concert. And same for you. You came way in advance of getting the job to do a concert. And so when someone applies for an orchestra kind of job in the chorals or in the instrumental area, it's quite an undertaking. And now you're commuting.
I am.
And because you have another position with a church in Chicago, is that
Well, very
correct?
much like Andrew, you know, most of the time, unless you are in an academic position, there really isn't such thing as a full-time job conducting. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't things that take up a lot of time. But even Riccardo Muti at the CSO, he gets paid plenty to live on just by the CSO, but he does lots of other things. And that's kind of the standard operating procedure for conductors. And so I continue to maintain relationships with the Chicago Symphony. I've been the section leader of the Symphony Chorus for many years. I conduct my own group in Chicago. I have a church choir in Chicago. I mean, really, you kind of have to be here, there, and everywhere
Right.
in order to piece together a decent living.
Right. So you're singing or having people sing for you 7 days a week? Pretty
Basically.
much. So you're
Basically.
always moving around, moving
Right.
around. Now, the Philharmonic Chorus, how many times do you perform a year? I know that it's been cut back.
Well,
but
it was
not as,
sort of cut back. It was cut back in the formal sense, in the sense that there weren't going to be any concerts pre-planned dedicated to the chorus. So they were removed from the season kind of officially, but it turned out this year that we ended up adding 2 performances. So we ended up doing a performance in November and a performance in March that were previously unscheduled. So
with the orchestra?
With the orchestra.
Right.
First with a smaller version of the orchestra, and second with the larger version of the orchestra. And so I think it's pretty standard. Those concerts have been now added officially back to the schedule. And I think we're doing 4 or 5 next year, just like we did this year and the previous year. So.
And who makes up the chorus? Is it paid professionals?
No, there are no paid positions in the chorus. Okay. But there are many people who either have been music professionals or who currently are, whether that's as a music teacher in a school or privately, or people who have had training in music who decided to pursue something else. And then we have other people who just enjoy it, and they've always enjoyed it, and they don't necessarily have formal training, but they have a great desire, and in some cases they do have a lot of experience.
Right.
So it's a wide range of people.
Right. So you probably get people who were in choirs in school situations or church situations who also want to join the Philharmonic. How many members do you have?
It varies. I don't know what the official total is, because for every given concert we are missing some people. Whether it's because they're out of town, because we do have some people who go south for the winter.
Oh, right, yeah.
And that sort of thing.
And after this winter, can you really blame them,
I
Benjamin?
cannot blame them
really,
at all.
If I could go south, I would have gone south. Yeah.
So we have some people who are only in town part of the year. We have other people who have family obligations and other things. And so the typical performing size varies. And it depends also on repertoire. So this particular concert we have coming up next week is basically everybody who we could get together who was available. And it's only going to be about 60 of us, in combination with about a similar number, maybe a few more from IPFW, from the Choral Union and from University Singers.
So that's 130
130
singers.
Probably.
Wow, and an orchestra. That is a lot of power.
It's going to be a
But you
a
can't
big,
do
big show.
Beethoven's Ninth Symphony without that kind of power.
You
don't
can.
commit to. Well, you can.
You
All right.
can't do it well.
Can't do it well. A man after my own heart. Don't do it if you can't do it well.
Absolutely.
That's right. That's my philosophy. Good for you. I know who the University Singers are, but what was the other group?
The Choral Union. That's the evening chorus. It's I assume from what I've heard that it's mostly community members.
Right. Okay.
Because they rehearse, I believe it's one night a week.
All right.
Much like one of the other community groups
Right.
you were talking about
Yeah.
earlier.
Well, when do you rehearse? I mean, if you're away and you've got to travel back and forth, when do you get the time to put together something as large as the Ninth Symphony?
It does become a challenge because I have some contracts with other companies that are fixed, and I have no control over the schedule whatsoever, like the Chicago Symphony. They tell me when to be there, and I can't tell them, well, could you move this date?
Right.
That would be really helpful for me.
Excuse me, can you take the 190 people in this and move them over here?
Exactly.
Because I'm going to be in Fort Wayne.
So instead of that, what generally happens is the fixed contracts are dealt with first. And then I deal with the things that are a little bit more movable. So the Fort Wayne Chorus is one of those. My own group in Chicago is like that, where I work it around. Now, we tend to stick to Tuesday nights whenever we can. But because of my schedule, we often rehearse on the weekends in addition to that. So we try to make it a little fun, and so when we have a Saturday rehearsal, they tend to be long, and we bring a potluck every time. So that way, at least it's not like, okay, we have to be here on Saturday for 4 hours.
Right.
Why
on
did
a spring day.
Why did I decide to do this? You know?
Right.
So we try to make it as fun as we can.
More community and more fun. Yeah. Well, so how many, just on average, how many hours will you work before this very large concert?
Well, I believe for the typical concert in the past, there has been a certain amount of rehearsal time spent. In order to get to know the chorus better, since it is my first full year, I scheduled more rehearsal time this year than they had last year. And I'm trying to feel out how much is actually necessary, how much is too much, because at some point you get the law of diminishing returns.
Absolutely.
So I think for a given concert, it's typical to have about 10 rehearsals. That includes sectionals, so we might actually have 12 rehearsals total, but each individual only has to come to 10.
Okay, so are you doing something else on that concert that night?
We are. We're doing a world premiere, actually, and it's quite rare for a chorus to get to do a world premiere with an orchestra. It's by Jonathan Leshnoff, who is a young composer out east, and he's actually had pieces performed all over the place, and so we're very excited.
That's exciting.
It's called Dark Bells, and it's 20-25 minutes or so. Again, world premiere, so nobody's ever heard it, I promise. And it's for viola solo, full orchestra, and chorus.
And that's in combination with the Beethoven Ninth Symphony.
Right. For the first half of half in terms of before intermission is the premiere. And then we take a break because Beethoven 9 is 70 minutes or so. We need a break before that.
How do people get tickets for this? The Fort Wayne Philharmonic. Ticket information is 481-0777, 481-0777, or www.fwphil.org, fwphil.org. And the concert is May 10th at 6 p.m. That's an interesting time. I want to make sure our viewers write that down, the Embassy Theater at 6 p.m., because that's earlier than most curtains in Fort Wayne.
That's correct.
We're now at 7:30 or 8, but you're at 6 p.m. for that evening. All right. Well, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it, and I hope to see you next time when you're in town for a concert.
Thanks very much.
Back on Arts Weekly. Nice to meet you. I'm John O'Connell, Dean of the IPFW College of Visual and Performing Arts. Next time on Arts Weekly, we'll hear from Allison Gerardo from the Fort Wayne Dance Collective and Leslie Horman from Fort Wayne Youth Theater about Fairy Tale Fest taking place downtown May 17th. Then Elizabeth Mikatadze will be here to share details on the Mikatadze Dance Company's dance concerts taking place May 16th and 17th. For up-to-the-minute arts updates, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And be sure to join us here Thursday evenings at 7:30 on PBS 39. Thanks for watching Arts Weekly.
The preceding program on PBS 39 was made possible in part by
Excellence lives here in northeastern Indiana. It's reflected in more than 200 nationally recognized degrees. It drives our Division I sports. It's alive in our campus life. Excellence has a name, IPFW. Around our campus, around the country, around the world. Excellence lives here. Indiana University, Purdue University, Fort Wayne. One university, two great names.
For nearly 60 years, Arts United has worked to bring the rich, diverse talents of our region together through support of the arts, socially, culturally, and economically. Arts United, providing a home for the arts in Northeast Indiana.